Hello there, and welcome to the 10-minute coaching series. Today, I have been asked about being stuck in a rut. What to do when you are caught in the day-to-day humdrum of life and you feel like you're not going anywhere and nothing much is happening. What do you do? Well, I have a question for you. Are there fairies at the bottom of your garden? This is my gnome, one of many I have around my garden. He's sitting on the edge of a woodland area, and I really love the magical inspiration that he engenders for me. I think that we get caught in our logical, intellectual thinking so often. We think that the right way to do something, or the way to fix something, the way to handle something, the way to approach it is with a plan and a goal and a logical process. And I'm not saying to dismiss that altogether, but I do think that there are times when we simply need to look at things differently. And I'm reminded of this over and over again when I am in the company of my small grandchildren, and they are simply wide-eyed and wonder at the most familiar things to me, things that I've forgotten how magical and amazing they are, how amazingly interested they are or curious they are about the squirrel or the daisy or the bird song or the way a flower grows. And yet we get to taking this so much for granted as we get older. So for me, getting out of the doldrums is really taking on that childlike wonder and revisiting things with a curiosity, a question about what does that mean? What is it really about? And that means getting out of our heads, getting out of our familiar story and into a more expansive awareness. If you blur your vision, make your eyes go out of focus, or in my case, if I take my glasses off, the world looks really quite different. And sometimes you can see things in colours and shapes that you wouldn't normally pick out. Instead of the tree being in very crisp focus, it becomes a kind of green blob. It might even be a monster on the landscape, or a patch of colour that you haven't seen in that way before. The same is true for anything. If you just blur your vision and look at it in a slightly different way, what can you see within that blurred vision that you wouldn't normally see? There's a measurement. There's apparently there are something like 1,000,000 bits per second that we're being bombarded with. 1,000,000 bits of information per second, and our brains only process about 40 to 50 bits per second. The numbers vary, and I'm never quite sure what the exact science is, but it's a significant difference in the amount of information our brains process in relation to the enormous quantity of information that is coming to us every single second. And our brains simply don't process it. And the way that our brains filter what it holds on to, what it connects with, is through what it actually recognizes. So it tends to be a little bit like a Facebook algorithm, where it continually feeds you the information that it thinks that you want. So in order to break that cycle with our brains, I'm not so sure it's so easy to do with Facebook, but to do that with our brains is to start to widen our imagination, to expand our imagination, to step into our imagination and to go from holding on to what's familiar to literally thinking outside the box. And one of the ways to do that is with make-believe, to simply make up a story. Brainstorming is probably the closest socially acceptable way of doing it, but you often see comedians doing this, where they will approach a subject from a very different angle and give you a completely different experience of a subject that to you had been seen in one particular way. Storytellers do it, poets do it, artists often do it. So when we're looking to get out of the doldrums, to really step into something new, some new creative idea, then my suggestion to you is to blur your focus, not simply through your eyes, but through your thinking as well. To make believe. What if there are fairies at the bottom of your garden? What if this gnome could tell a story of the garden, a story of his life, a story of our journey together? What would he say? How would he express his life, his story, our journey, the world, and make it up from there? We can all dream, and in dreaming, there are many of our heart's desires that are expressed. They are all possible to us if we take steps to create those dreams. It's not a logical path. It is a path of make-believe, a part of dreaming, a part of thinking outside the box, a part of speaking and visiting the fairies at the bottom of your garden. Enjoy.